Hello, my loving souls. This is Olesya again. Thank you so much for tuning in into my video series. In this video series, I'm sharing with the world my mystical, magical, transformational, and supernatural story and the events that have been happening with me for the last year and a half. Additionally, I go into the great detail and I talk about, I share a step-by-step process of development of the special abilities that awakened within me during this time. And one of the special abilities that was awakened is basically channeling, right? And so in the last video, I went into some great details, basically talking about how all these special gifts, all of the special abilities is our natural quality of our soul, how everyone possesses the power within to tap into the superpowers, what we call superpowers, right? And so we were just conditioned within the system and conditioned by our environment to be fearful, to be, I would say, to be frightened of something like this, because in many cases I was growing up with the idea and kind of negative stigma against the psychics and mediums. I would say the concept was that psychics and mediums are not from God. They're basically on the side of, let's say, Satan in that sense, right? And so as I was emerging into these experiences, and as I was emerging into the information about the energy and how everything is energy, everything is vibration, everything is frequency, right? So everything is consciousness in that sense. Everything is this divine intellect, right, behind everything. And so the information that I was told in my childhood, it cannot be further from the truth. It cannot be further from the truth. And so as I dived in and emerged in this information, into those experiences, I discovered that, yeah, behind everything there is a great purpose, right? There is basically an infinite consciousness that is we are part of it, right? So we're always connected to this infinite consciousness, to this infinite intelligence, because at our core there is a soul. Within our core there is a personal energy field which is ancient, which comes from the beginning of times, if there is a beginning. So this energy always existed. That's how information comes to me. And so in many cases, like in the prior videos, guys, I told you that try to research the channeling online. However, by understanding now how the media and how kind of like the mainstream media platforms are set up in that sense, in many cases, many of you, if you start researching this information online, in many cases, the information will come from kind of like the negative perspective. So from people who maybe were experiencing those type of or opened up at some point those abilities within themselves, like channeling or some psychic abilities or some mediumship abilities. However, there is something happened during the ability, let's say, during that time that frightened them, right? The events took place and they got scared and they got, I would say, freaked out. And they basically started to, let's say, express, I would say, started to step away from those type of abilities, right, due to those fears. And also there are many fears are assigned with those psychic abilities and mediumship abilities by the system again, by kind of by our environment. And our perception is shaped by our environment, as I continue saying this. And our perception, to be honest, as I started to dive into this vastness, right? Into this infinity in that sense, into this the energy, and the more I was diving into this information, the more I understood how little we know, how little we actually understand, right? So we understand only the very I would say many of us have a very narrow perception of this world, and a very narrow perception of how everything is set up, because there is so much more to this. There is such like infinite consciousness. It's just the information, there's so many areas we just don't understand. There's so many areas we just don't understand. And so the channeling is actually I would say it's a very important and very useful, beneficial gift that is available to all of us, because channeling is the instrument through which we connect to this divine consciousness, through which we connect to the divine wisdom, through which we connect to the infinite intelligence that many of us call God in that sense, and we don't need really a middleman between us and this divine connection, because this connection is happening every present moment. It happens within us, right, and through us in that sense. And it's always the power is within us to connect to this infinite potential, to connect to this infinite consciousness, right? And so it seems like the system and the programming and conditioning through the life is, I would say, we were conditioned to think otherwise. We were conditioned to rely on other people or other resources, or on, as you would say, experts, right? Experts, the people who actually received, let's say, the education in academic world, and let's say they are professional in their field of interest, and they have some type of certificate or diploma. And in many cases we were conditioned by the system to rely on those type of resources, or on those type of professionals, or on those type of experts in that sense, right? However, we're totally disregarding that all the knowledge, all the wisdom, everything that we actually need to know I would say, in our life, is actually we don't fully understand ourselves. We don't understand ourselves at all. I would say some people do, but there is such a big vastness, because we as spiritual energetic beings, we have the unlimited, I would say, the infinite potential to the knowledge that is available to us through developing the special abilities and developing the special connection with the divine consciousness, right? And so obviously the some structures and some systems are would like to divert our attention from ourselves into into the hands of I would say away from us, like turn our attention from ourselves into the outer world in that sense, right? And so many resources that you might find online about channeling or psychic abilities, or let's say the even the tools like the Ouija board, the card reading and whatnot, many resources I would say online will depict this type of areas as they are from let's say devil, or they're from Satan, or they're from let's say it's very dangerous, and it's anything just to put more fear into you, to us into us, right? Because we are one. And so the more I dived into this information, and the more the things that were open to me, the more, let's say, our consciousness. So guys, let me start from the beginning, just not to I'm very methodical person. I like to go everything in kind of like in order, for the picture to be more clear, for things not to be lost out of the translation or out of the context. Every I might be redundant right now, but I want to kind of like catch up on a little summary here, okay? Just kind of like totaling things up, what I was talking about previously. And I'm going to explain to you in regards to this. So it's going to be linked in to the information, kind of like not I would say frightening information that we are receiving about, let's say, channeling, or about some type of like psychic abilities and whatnot, and some type of like mediumship abilities that I've heard. I heard so many things, like I've heard things that people are saying that that the spirits of passed away relatives, they're not really spirits of passed away relatives. Those are kind of like the demons, you know, who are let's say, mask themselves as the spirits of your passed away relative. And so people, let's say, some of us who are saying those things, and people who are actually saying those things, it just shows me the lack of understanding. The lack of understanding, because everything from energetical standpoint, there is no deception. There is no deception if we have the ability to be attuned with ourselves, right? Being attuned with, oh, I'm receiving a strong confirmation, right? So there is no deception if we are attuned with our soul, if we're attuned to our intuition, if we're attuned to our inner voice, if we actually attune to our personal energy field, so as we can, let's say, tune in and read the energetical frequency of any living being, any living thing. There is no deception if we understand how energy works. There is no deception in energy, because energy goes by specific frequency. Energy goes by the specific frequency. It's vibrational frequency of the energy. It's very, very unique. It's as unique as actually, I think it has more details than our fingerprints in that sense. So every person has very specific, very unique fingerprints. And so that's how the spirit now brought me the information right now. So it's kind of like a simple comparison of the energy frequency to a specific fingerprints. So there is no deception about this, or specific, let's say, DNA in that sense, right? So which is very unique to a specific person. So that's how the energy works. There is no deception with the energy in that sense. And so when I was kind of looking at this information, right, some people are saying that these passed away relatives can be the spirits of passed away relatives can be the demons, right? I just would like to, this information that I'm going to talk about, it's going to link to this, right, to this kind of misconception. So I'm here to kind of shine my light together with the divine consciousness, because some information, you know, if not all, is being channeled, right? And so I am here, we are here to shine our light into this misconception. Every personal energy field, right? So all of us have personal energy field. All of us have this soul, right? The intelligent, I would say, infinite intelligence that is within us, which is part from the divine consciousness, which is one with the infinite consciousness, right? And so each energy field, it's basically vibrates at the specific frequency, right? And so, as I stated in my previous videos, as we are born and we're babies, our soul is pure, because the soul basically gets renewed before it enters into this body that it is born in, right? It is pure. So that's why guys, you can check. That's why babies, they are pure souls. They have this child innocence, the playfulness, the creativity. There are no fears. They're explorers, right? I spoke about kind of like the kids energy, right? So it's a pure soul energy. It's when the kids are inventors and they're creators and they are playing. We were kids at some point, right? However, after let's say traumatic and dramatic experiences within our life, the our energy field, so on the beginning stages when we're babies, it's a light energy field, right? It vibrates on the higher vibrational frequency. And so I would say typically by the age of 6, but it's also very average, right? So every kid is different and depends what type of experiences kid was going through. Like the early stages of development, some kids are born into, let's say, a family where they have like drug addiction or alcohol addiction, and kid is going through traumatic experiences, right? Or there is some type of abuse happening. Of course, this kid is going to have those traumatic and dramatic experiences early in their development in that sense. But let's say on average, by the age of 6 or 7, kids are pure, and kids energy, our energy vibrates on a very light vibrational frequency when we are kids, right? So it's a light energy. And so when those traumatic experiences are happening, let's say we're bullied at school, or we are, let's say we were mistreated in our family, we are, let's say, had the first heartbreak, we, let's say, I don't know, lost some competition, or there is a, I don't know, like anything can happen to us, that kind of leaves the heavier, leaves the, I would say, emotional trauma or emotional distress or emotional some type of like wound in that sense. And so if that wound is not healed, then it's actually results, it's almost like it structures and it basically creates this heaviness, kind of like an emotional knot, as I explained in my previous videos as well. Guys, I'm being redundant, but I'm gonna link this. I'm gonna link this to the information so that that it's easier to be followed, right? And so unless we know how to process our emotional wounds, unless we know how to process and release our emotional trauma or distress and just let go of those type of heaviness within ourselves in that sense through, let's say, emotional outbursts or some other different ways, our energy field will stay heavy in that sense, right? And the more trauma, the more dramatic experiences we have, and let's say some of us may go into also addictions during this time, right? Some of us may not handle the situation, I would say, in our sober state. Some of us will, due to those type of, let's say, traumatic experiences, are trying to get away from the reality, are trying to basically, I would say, fall into the victim mentality in that sense, and try and basically will go into some addictions like drug abuse, alcohol abuse, you name it, right? We go in the spiral in that sense. And the more we spiral into this, I would say, darkness, into those addictions, our energy, our personal energy becomes even like more heavier, more kind of condensed, more emotional wounds. I would say they just become. It's almost like analogy come in. It's like these emotional traumas and wounds within ourselves. It becomes more hardened. You know, it's more like a calcification, almost like energetical calcification in that sense. So it becomes more hard, more heavy. It's kind of more suppressed, more repressed. It goes more deep into our essence, our soul. And so we start to vibrate on this heavier vibrational frequency, right? And the spirits, so our energy field is going to basically change. It's going to fluctuate based on this frequency, and it's very, very unique to us because everyone is going through very, very unique experiences, right? And so we're kind of become on this, let's say, on this level of consciousness, since our vibrational frequency vibrates on a heavier vibrational state. Let's say it's a heavy energy. We basically place ourselves on this kind of dimensional consciousness, in that sense, on this lower vibrational plane, I would say, when especially people who are some of us who are depressed, some of us who have a lot of anxiety, some of us who have a lot of fear, some of us who have a lot of those type of addictions, we start to vibrate on this, again, heavier vibrational frequency. But it's not only that, we're kind of operating on the lower vibrational plane, right, on the lower vibrational frequency plane, where we start attracting into our life more kind of like heavier vibrational frequencies. It's almost like an attraction happens of like frequencies, in that sense. We start sometimes you guys might notice when some like a tragic event happens, and let's say we go into this dramatic experience, let's say, and some other things start to happen to us. Or for example, you will notice for like when you are angry, when some of us are angry, and let's say we go to the store or we go anywhere, and we also kind of angry at the world, we are very bitter, and other people in many cases will respond to us like the same way. Someone might hit our car and might be rude to us on the parking lot and whatnot, and so it seems like these things just start to escalate for us, right? And so in order for us to shift our consciousness to kind of to get rid of those experiences, in that sense, and shift our consciousness to the higher level, we have to elevate our vibrational frequency. And so by that, we should let go of those type of traumatic wounds and traumas and everything that is basically weighing us down. This heavier vibrational frequency of this suppressed, repressed emotion is weighing us down. And so as we let go of those traumas and everything else, let's say we found the way to connect with ourselves, we found the way through this, let's say, darkness, we let's say found some resource, or even we started to do like a daily prayer meditation, prayer/meditation and whatnot, and so we started to elevate our vibrational frequency, and we started to shift our consciousness to a higher vibrational plane. And so that's when we start to notice our experiences will start to change. And so through more I would say elevation of our personal energy field, of our consciousness, in that sense, we are shifting every time to a kind of lighter and lighter and lighter level of consciousness. And so through the development, the more we go into let's say, the more we go and connect with ourselves, with our soul, with our inner voice, with our intuition, when we connect, guys, very important, when we connect to our inner voice and our intuition, it's almost like we are, and we start listening to this. So this is coming to me. The more we start listening to our intuition, it's almost we are placing ourselves on the automatic flow, in that sense, right? It's almost like as soon as we start listening to our intuition and following its guidance, because intuition is our soul's guidance. The inner voice is our soul's voice, in that sense, to guide us through the life, right? And so as soon as we attune and as soon as we start listening to our intuition, then universal forces take over, and we almost it's almost like takes over. The analogy comes in, it's almost like it puts us on this Aladdin rug, right? The rug, do you remember in Aladdin there is a rug, right? Which had the ability to fly. It's almost like the universal forces will take us like we are on this rug, and it starts to basically bring us to places where we supposed to be. Like, for example, you will start noticing the synchronicities, the ones that I was telling you about. You start noticing the meeting the right people, kind of like connecting to the right resources. And through those type of, I would say, universal flow of things, you are being led now. It's kind of you are being guided to your soul's path, to your soul's purpose. And along the way, there will be some resources on how to develop your psychic abilities in that sense. Not just psychic abilities, but special special abilities. Because I don't want to, when I say psychic abilities, I put the cap on this. So it's the abilities that we hold within ourselves are very vast and very unique, right? And so there is unlimited potential. And so through more connecting with our, I say divine essence in that sense, through more connecting to our that soul guidance, we then start developing those abilities, and we naturally actually will start having an interest in some area which we would like to research. Some people, like for example in my case, it led me to, let's say, psychic and card reading, and then crystals, and then some chakras, and then some angelic realms and whatnot. So things like this will start to pop in. Pretty much they will be so obvious, it will be hard to miss. Like we will start having this type of like natural urge, kind of like this calling within ourselves, that we would like to immerse ourselves, let's say, in astrology. We would like to study, let's say, some energy healing. We will start researching how crystals work in that sense, right? But those are just kind of like experiences on our journey. It's not like the end result. We just need to continue going into, I'd say, surrender to this unknown. And so with development of the special abilities, with now being connected to our intuition and inner voice, where we are just basically following the guidance, right? We are changing, we are growing, we are transforming, we are transmuting to a higher version of ourselves. By transforming and transitioning to a higher version of ourselves, let's say, we automatically start kind of like I would say shedding the bad habits in that sense. Our diet, like our nutrition changes. Like we no longer, let's say, crave the greasy food. We no longer crave the meat. We are, let's say, gravitated towards like very clean nutrition in that sense, to nutrition which is really good for us. The nutrition which is very, I would say, nutritious, right? Nutritious foods in that sense, like the water, the fresh juices, So this is kind of a natural, it's a natural progression. It's the natural expansion. It's actually all the signs are going to let us know that we are on the right path, and it feels good. And it actually feels good. And we feel this kind of like the fresh breath of air in that sense. Like the second, it almost seems like we are awakening to the new life. We are awakening to the new life. And by that, we're shifting our consciousness. The more we're shifting, the higher we're shifting I would say, to our higher self, right, the more, and there are going to be some kind of like death and rebirth processes along the way, and this is kind of like in spiritual sense again. So death, it's kind of leaving our old and miserable and kind of victim mentality back and being reborn into our courageous, I would say, creative, very wondrous, kind of like a kid, like our higher self, basically, our higher self. We find ourselves by shifting our vibrational plane and by surrendering to the unknown, by connecting with ourself and the divine source energy, to this infinite consciousness. We're kind of almost, it seems like it's like an upgrade. It seems like it's a natural upgrade for us, right? And some things, many things will start happening to us automatically. That's when, as soon as we place ourselves into this flow, many things are just, the universe is going to take care of a lot of things for us. Like new people will come into our life, new experiences will come to our life, new resources will come into our life. Our perspective, the more we, I would say, awaken to the higher self, our better version of ourselves, in that sense, we are shifting our consciousness, in that sense, right? We're shifting our consciousness. By shifting our consciousness, we're also shifting our perception, as I stated previously. And by shifting our perception, our reality changes, and we see world clearer, and we see world more, I would say, it's like a vast world for us. We understand more now. We are open to more possibilities. We are more excited about, let's say, the present and the future. We're no longer looking, we only look back at the past experiences, kind of like lessons. We reassess the past, but we no longer stuck in the past, in that sense. We're kind of in the present and looking forward as well, kind of being excited about the future in that sense. And so as soon as our consciousness shifts, there are no fears. There are no fears about the demons, about the, I would say, the devils. There are no fears about the Satan, because we already know we are protected by the light, by this loving light energy, right? And so in the higher our consciousness is, the more concepts of the devil and the Satan and some darkness like this, it's no longer brings fears to us, because it no longer exists on our level of consciousness. Because the higher the level of consciousness, the more the information comes. It's all part of this, infinite consciousness. It's outside of the light and it's outside of the darkness. The light and the darkness are just kind of like mechanisms, right? It's mechanisms in that sense. But as information was revealed to me, there is just vastness, there is just infinity. It's everything and nothing at the same time. So no, those guys, we're at the end of the video. I think I'm going to continue the subject the next time. So thank you so